Hey folks, Randy Newberg here from Wasilla, Alaska, and you are going to hear three of the happiest hunters on the North American continent on this podcast. And when you hear why, well, I'm not going to tell you why until we get through the promos here at the beginning. This is Leupold's Hunt Talk Radio. Like we always say, Leupold is the biggest supporter of everything we do, of the public land hunter, of public lands, of conservation, you name it. Leupold is out there supporting it, and they support us, and they are the maker of great optics. So I hope when you have a need for optics, you will go and check out the great folks at Leupold.com and thank them for all the support they give to the things we love. The other one, GoHunt.com, right now they got a 30-day free trial. So if you go to GoHunt.com/Randy, you can sign up for 30 free days of their insider. This is like full blown. You get to use all of it. So when you hear me talking about draw odds, researching this, researching that, all the things that we do to draw tags and get the tags that we try to get for an entire season, all of that is in one place with the Go Hunt Insider. So go to GoHunt.com/Randy and get your 30-day free trial started. And then we have Orion coolers, which right now I have 2 Orion coolers up here in Alaska. And Marcus and I were jumping up and down on the lid earlier trying to get it closed because we have 2 Dall Sheep that we're trying to fit in an 85 quart and a 65 quart. I'm not sure how we're going to do that, but after this podcast, that is the goal. OrionCoolers.com, use promo code Randy. You guys have heard me talk about what great coolers they are, so you don't need me to go on forever about their great coolers. But promo code Randy is going to get you this really cool tumbler when you buy your Orion cooler from them. And then we have OnX Maps. I hope you've been following the e-scouting series we did with OnX Maps. Every Monday, there's a new episode. I think we've got 12 of them. Right now, I think we're on number 8. No, by the time this podcast drops, we'll probably be on number 9 or 10. Anyhow, go to onxmaps.com, and if you want to use or acquire this amazing product that we use on our smartphones, this app that has all the property boundaries, land ownership, fire layers, roadless layers, more stuff than you could ever imagine could be available in one app. Go to onxmaps.com, and if you use promo code Randy, you're going to save yourself 20%. So there you have it, folks. Look at all the money you just saved. You got a free trial at GoHunt.com. You got 20% off at onxmaps.com. You got Orion Coolers is going to sell you the best cooler and give you this great cool tumbler for it. I don't know what more you could... man, I should be charging you guys for listening to this podcast or something. Just kidding. So, with that, as quick as I flick the switch here, we are going to be joined by one of the people you know is part of our crew, Marcus Hockett. But we were out in the wilds of Alaska on a Dall Sheep hunt with a new outfitter. His name is Eric Lee of Alaska Adventure Services. And Eric said, yeah, I'm going to be guiding another guy. You might even know him. His name is Tim Burnett of the SoloHunter. I'm like, you're kidding me. You're taking him to the good spot. Oh, all right, I get that. But anyhow, Tim shot his sheep on day 3, I think, of the 7-day hunt. And so Tim and Eric hiked over like 14 mountain passes to come over to our camp and tend the fire and help out and do other things. And I shot my sheep on day 4. So Tim and I got to spend so much time around the fire solving the world's problems that we decided when we get back to civilization, we're going to do a podcast, because Tim is somebody who's doing a lot of cool stuff. If you haven't watched the whole SoloHunter stuff that he's got, you're going to get a whole lot more detail on where you can find it, what you can do to enjoy it. And Marcus, being the guy that he is, he had to milk it to the absolute last hour. I mean, the last evening, I think Tim and I heard a rifle shot at 7:15 in the evening on the last day. And the next day we had what turned out to be 13-mile pack out the next day. And all of us today, the day after the pack out, are sitting here massaging our feet, picking calluses, trying to figure out if the swelling will ever go down. We all look like we got some sort of arthritic quasimotus-itis or something. But anyhow, that's who's with us today. Marcus Hockett, Tim Burnett, and in about 1 second, we're going to be ready to get into a serious discussion about all kinds of stuff. Well, folks, here we are. Over to my left is the SoloHunter himself, Mr. Tim Burnett.
Hello,
Tim,
Randy.
Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for sitting around a rainy, wet, windy, snowy campfire for a few days, hauling firewood for our camp and all the other things you did. Filming for Marcus one day.
Yeah.
Well, I was just delaying the hunt as long as I could.
You were milking it, Marcus.
I was just milking it. I just really didn't want to be done.
Yeah. So that is Marcus's style. He's either like the first 10 minutes he's done, or
the last 10 minutes.
The last 10 minutes. And
I do prefer the first 10 minutes, but
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyhow, folks, like I said in the intro, we are up in Alaska, way over. Yeah, I don't even know, somewhere near the Wrangell St. Elias country. I'm not exactly sure, but we were with Eric Lee of Alaska Adventure Services. Tim, you've known Eric a long time.
Yeah, I knew Eric in college, and so when he'd been guiding up here in Alaska for 10, 15 years for another outfit up here, Mont Mahoney.
Okay.
I can't remember what his outfit is called, and the opportunity came up for him to become his own registered guide and start his own thing. And he messaged me and said, "Hey, this is what's going on. Would you be interested in being my first client?" And I'm like, in my dreams, like that's going to happen. He's like, no, seriously. He says, I think this was, I don't know, March, April.
Okay.
Just not very long ago.
Yeah.
So the amount of time to book a bunch of hunters. And he said, do you know anybody else? I'm like, you know who's really connected? You ought to message Randy, see if he knows anybody, because he probably gets hit up all the time. I said, I'm in, we'll figure out the details later. I'm in. And then he messaged you, and you took the rest from there.
So. Well, he sent me a message. I almost didn't reply to the first email. I went to the office and I told Marcus, I said, I got this email last night from this guy. He says that if we'll do a whole YouTube series and other stuff, that he will give us 2 sheep hunts at a price that we'll never see ever again.
Yeah.
So because our premise of our show is all self-guided hunting, I'm so conflicted at that time because I'm like, oh, my audience is going to give me a bunch of grief.
Right.
And so first I got a hold of Matt Clyde, and Matt's like, no, I already shot a ram, so you should go do it for that price. I'm like, oh, man. Then I got a hold of Mike Spitzer, who's been on podcasts and episodes, and Mike's like, okay, let me think about it over the weekend. Then he called me on Monday. He said, I'm not doing that. You go do that. This has been a dream of yours for 40 years. No way am I doing that. So I didn't really know if Eric was for real or what the deal was.
So did you research him? Because I've known him, and I mean, 15 for 15 on sheep. I've seen his videos on YouTube. I know Austin Atkinson, who worked with him with Mont really well, and Austin had nothing but positive things to say. And I knew Eric personally, and how much of a beast he was in college, and how, what a good man that he is. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to trust you. And besides, I'll either get what I pay for, or I'll come home with a sheep. This is a sweet deal. So.
I think that's what we said, dude. I mean, Marcus, we're like, well, if nothing else, we're going to have a story to tell.
Yeah.
Because Eric almost sold it. Like, I can't promise you anything here. This is an area I've never hunted. your guide is gonna be my son, who he'll be 18 by the time your hunting starts. So Branson, what is he? I bet you Branson's 6'4" or 6'5". He's a
giant. Yeah.
Great,
freak
great
of
young
nature,
guy.
that kid, yeah.
And he's like, I know, I watch all your stuff. I've watched everything you've ever done, and I know that you do all self-guided. This is the closest thing you're ever going to get to a self-guided sheep hunt, but not be self-guided. And so he was, and then he's telling me how long of a hike it is to get in. All the
walking in off the road system. No, we didn't fly in or anything like that.
And then when I started telling him how much gear we carry, he's like, I got to get you a packer. I'm like, boy, that'd be a big help. And then when he swung through Bozeman this summer, he saw all the stuff Marcus and I were pointing out. When he got back to Alaska, he emailed me. He's like, I think you need a second packer.
Which you did.
Yeah, that was very helpful.
Yeah. So anyhow, folks, that's all three of us got to go in and be on the first hunts Eric ever did.
Yeah. So we went in separately, and that was one of the things with Eric is, and with doing this type of hunt, because I'm like you, I don't do guided hunts. Yeah. It's not really something that I want to do. Obviously, here in Alaska, you have to have a registered guide to hunt Dall sheep. But it really worked out cool with Eric because he's like, Tim, I know how to get into this area. I don't know anything about it. I know there's probably sheep in there. He did some pre-scouting. And he's like, we can do one of two things. We can either go in and set up a base camp and hunt from there, or we can do what I really want to do, and that's keep camp on our backs and just go. Just hike until we find a sheep, kill it, and then hike back out. So that was, in my mind, it was like we're hunting together as a team and not necessarily being guided. And the way that this hunt went down was just exactly that. It was, well, we crested over one pass, and we look over, and we're like, I think we could get over that pass. So we drop down to the valley floor and go up over the next pass. And then we drop down to the next valley and we're like, let's just camp here. And then you wake up in the next morning, you're like, I think we could get over that pass. And we literally hiked, I think you mentioned third day. I think it was the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I killed on the third day of the hunt, but we had been in there 2 days. So it was the fifth day of straight hiking 12, 15 miles a day. For us, because we were just exploring. We were like two kids in we're set free. College kids set free at their first fraternity party or something. We're just like cruising around. This is amazing. In fact, we slept on the top of a peak one night. The night before we killed my ram, we slept on top of this peak, and I thought we were gonna die. But that was a true adventure that I wanted out of a trip like this, and it didn't feel guided. It was like two buddies going out and just beating feet and finding sheep. It was amazing. It was way more than I was ever dreaming for out of a hunt. So.
Yeah. For me, it was. I know, Marcus, you've been working out. Oh, you're way more diligent about working out than I am.
I wouldn't call it working out. I just hike a lot. Try to hike with stupid amounts of weight on my back,
Yeah.
I was impressed with Marcus that day. The day that I went with you, I was like, God dang. Yeah. I thought I was pretty tough.
Oh, no, you were doing great. I was dead from the day before, though. Yeah. That was a brutal day.
Yeah.
With Branson,
Eric and I told ourselves, we said, when we get back into camp, we can't let these guys know how beat we are because the pack out of getting my ram out, we're dropping 1,500 feet, then we're going over 2,000 feet, and then dropping another 2,500 feet, and then we get to your guys' camp. We're like, let's just don't tell anybody how much that kicked our butts. Let's just play it off like we're that cool, So.
Well, we just had so much gear, we had to just set up a base camp in that valley. And
I got a little over ambitious with the camera gear on this one.
Yeah, so I tried to talk you into it, Marcus. I told him, I said, let's just do this one with mirrorless cameras and bring the batteries and the chargers. And
from my perspective, this is the one chance we're ever going to get to do this in an amazing country. I wanted the best possible camera equipment.
Right.
So we packed in a lot of really big, heavy batteries, solar panels, charging stuff.
Huge tripod.
Big tripod, all that. And then
Was this country not extremely photogenic though?
Oh, it was amazing. And that's the first 3-4 days of footage are pretty incredible because I was using that stuff.
And then the camera, folks, it rained every day. Partially rained or snowed at least part of every day.
I think every day.
Well, and I don't even know if the camera got messed up on this hunt, or it could have been partly from the blacktail hunt where it also rained the whole time.
Right.
So I don't know, but at some point the camera fritzed out and it would still work, but the buttons were mismatched. And so I had a really tough time operating with that camera. So it got, eventually it just got left. It got left at base camp and we just started using mirrorless cameras around day 4, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because what happened, folks, the prior podcast, you heard us talking with Jim Batestail, Tyler Jonerson, and Sophie Gilbert. Marcus and I and Tyler flew up to Alaska. We did a week of Sitka blacktails in Hurricane Katrina, or whatever hurricane name you want to give it. We flew out, dejunked, dried our stuff as well as we could, then flew up here, and the next day we were on our way in to that country. And did you guys get in there in one day, Tim?
Yeah, so I flew in. I landed at 7:30, didn't get my gun until 8:30 or 9.
That night?
And then we jumped in the Suburban with Branson and Jace and Eric and myself, and we drove to the trailhead. We got there at 3 a.m. And we threw out a tent, which what I thought was going to be a tent. It was, a floorless teepee shelter on wet ground in the middle of the rain on the side of the road, which was flooded. You know? And I'm just thinking, wow, that's jumping into it fast, And so we slept for about, 3 or 4 hours until it got light, loaded our bags and hoofed it in there. And just a long, awesome day. When you're walking, you're starting out and you're not in the mountains. You're just kind of in the trees and the timber. Right. You really can't see a lot. And as you crest through, it's like, oh, gosh, it snowed last night up there, Yeah. And then the mountains become more visible as you get more into it. Then you get higher in elevation and then it opens up. And it was almost just like this slow unveiling of what you were about to experience for the week, or for the 10 days. We had 10 days scheduled to be in there. And we were 2 days ahead of season, when we went in there. And you guys came in. You flew in the next. You flew in late that night.
Late that night that you guys left. Eric said, "We'll wait for you if you want to pull an all-nighter." I'm like, Eric, I am too old for all-nighters. I'll get a room. Just have somebody come and get us the next morning.
That's what I told him. Like, dude, I've been flying all day. I don't mind getting a hotel and shower, get my gear all together, have a nice fat breakfast, and then mosey on in there. He's like, nope, we got to get to the trailhead. All right, man.
So he had Josh come and pick us up, and when Josh saw how much gear we had, we could barely fit it all in the bed of his pickup truck because we did 2 trips back to back. And so we're like, hey, we got to swing by Eric's house and drop a lot of this gear because we are not hauling all that out in the boondocks. And so we got out to that trailhead where you guys had been parked. We got out there, 3 or 4 in the afternoon?
Yeah, I think so.
And then we hiked till dark. And dark is...
Did you guys make it to the summit by dark?
No.
Oh, wow.
Because the river was so flooded.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, all those river crossings. Because Eric had said, it'll be about up to your shins. Well, with all that rain that had been there, it was high.
Yeah, so it was sketch, like going up there. I almost died. I'll just lay it out there. I was almost a dead man or crushed, whatever, because we took 4-wheelers a little bit of the way up. But that river was, the creek was so raging from the storm that you guys had just hunted in.
Yeah, for blacktail, yeah.
And the water was so high that we ended up only getting the 4-wheelers 2 miles from the trucks. So we had to cover that full rest of the distance.
Remaining 11 miles.
Yep.
And raining the entire time. And with the accident with the 4-wheeler, I was soaked from my chin to my feet.
Oof.
So there was at that point, it was like, we'll just go. The stream crossings, no problem, man. We're wet already. We'll just motor up there.
And then when we got there, it was the same thing. We just didn't risk it. They're like, this is where Tim almost died. So we're gonna walk from here.
Well, I got to tell, so we're going. Branson, we pull up to this section of the river after we had already gone through a bunch of it. And I'm like, B, you want me to drive? He's like, nah. I'm like, and then I go, well, you got it in 4-wheel drive? Yeah. And so we kind of planned out upstream where we had to aim at because the current was going to carry us down, and then we'd hit the edge of this little tail. And which we did, but what we didn't see under the water was this giant boulder. Ooh. And so he just centered that giant boulder and took the 4-wheeler right up on top of it. Ooh. And with the current, it immediately spun me around, and I'm on the back, and then just flipped the 4-wheeler up to where it was vertical.
Oh, my goodness.
And I braced my feet on that, and I put my hands on Branson's hips, and I thought, hold your breath. As soon as your back hits the ground, push it to the side against the stream. So that's what I was prepared for. Well, it got vertical, and it stopped. Like, it just stopped. And I'm thinking anytime, and the water's just rushing up the back of my raincoat, and up just soaking me and coming out my collar, and I'm thinking, anytime it's going to go over, but it just stopped. And then it must have been just seconds, and Eric and Josh were there, or Jace grabbed the 4-wheeler and twisted it back around off the rock. And I was like, man, how stupid is this? But
wow.
Anyway, it was fun, but it was also, you think back on it, you're like, dang, that could have been rough.
Yeah, and for the listener, what it is there's an ATV trail that goes 7.5 miles, something
roughly,
like that, like that, and then you got about, it
would have been another 6 to where you guys were camped from that.
Yeah, well, for us, they said, stop. We're stopping here. We're not risking it, and we start hiking, and we get up to where the no motorized traffic sign is. And there's a bunch of ATVs there that already, they must have got up there before the flood or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Some of them, there was one of them, I think, that had 6 wheels on it, or, maybe they just powered through. I have no idea.
But I'm like, how fair is this, man? We've already been hiking all this last half of this day.
I know.
And these people drove their ATVs up there, and we are like loaded to the gills. I mean,
and we were bushwhacking half the way because we couldn't cross the creek because it's so high. So we just bushwhacked whenever.
We just walked right through that creek, man. It was like there was no creek even there because we were so wet anyway.
See, we still had the fallacy that we were somehow going to stay dry. And
I think I was the only one who somehow kept dry feet.
Yeah.
Everyone else was soaked.
Yeah.
I have no idea how I got lucky. Cinched the gaiters super tight and ran.
Well, I did, but if you look at that clear water where I went over was in the spot where it was really clear coming down off that glacier. I'm like, that's only like 4 inches deep. I stepped into that and I'm up to my knees. I'm like, well, I'm about 5 inches above my gaiters. This isn't good.
Yeah.
And so once you do that, you're just screwed for the rest of the hunt.
Yeah, I think I wore my wet socks every day for the first 4 days because I didn't want to wear my dry socks because as soon as I slipped them in my boot, they were going to be wet.
Yeah. So we got almost to the summit. No, we were probably still 1.5 miles from the summit, you suppose?
Yeah, I don't even remember. It was a good little chunk the next day.
Yeah, the next day we still had a grunt to get over the summit, and then we were, 2.5 miles down to where that little knoll was that we camped on?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that little head start I got that night, we were probably 30 miles deep before you guys got into your base camp. Where we were going to be.
Yeah, but man, as quick as we got over that summit, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be worth the effort to do it. And so
cinematic.
We got in there and instantly we were seeing sheep right from camp. I'm like, oh my, this is going to be like fish in a barrel here. This is taking candy from the kids out on the playground. Well,
because sheep aren't hard to see. There's little white dots all over the mountains, and you're like, this is going to be a cakewalk, man. This is just going to be exactly like I see on TV, guys. Stroll in, smack their sheep, and go home happy.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's some people listening who have done Dall Sheep hunts or maybe multiple Dall Sheep hunts, and they're probably laughing, thinking, well, yeah, you guys, what do you expect? But I've never been on a Dall Sheep hunt, so I had no idea. what to expect. And I was grilling Eric a little bit along the way, but he's like, I don't know. I'll go in there and scout, but you better expect some resident hunting pressure because this is an over-the-counter unit. So I was thankful that he really downplayed everything. Like, you're going to have this challenge. You're going to have this drill. You're going to have this. Because I think if I would have came here thinking it's like a fly-in hunt where you probably got most of it to yourself.
Guide's been there for a week, has everything figured out.
Yeah. I think that if that would have been the expectation he built, it would have been frustrating. Because the very first day we were there, Marcus, didn't we run into the two guys who had camped down below us?
Yeah. Or I think Branson went and talked to him, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't there, but Josh and Branson went and talked to him, and they said, yeah, we'll hunt this whole side over on this side of the valley. Dang it, that's where we saw all the sheep. But
so you guys got on the sheep that first morning over the pass that Eric and I hiked over.
Yeah.
But they actually crossed the valley. Like we're pretty sure it was
same.
So they kind of came from where the other two resident hunters were. They kind of crossed over and then came to the side that we were planning on hunting, which worked out perfectly.
It worked out so perfect.
Well, kind of.
Yeah.
Who was up on the summit that opening morning? Because we were camped down in the bottom of across the valley. And somebody was up on the summit.
Oh, really?
That morning.
Oh, so there was another person ahead of us.
Wasn't it you guys that we saw?
No,
yeah,
we didn't quite.
We were on that divide. The one
that Eric and I hiked over?
Yeah,
that pass?
that was us.
Somebody, these guys were up on
someone hunting it?
No, these guys.
Yeah,
opening
we were.
morning.
Oh, yeah.
So when we went in, there was two guys just cresting it, going over into the valley where we were going. We're like, dang it, somebody beat us to it,
Yeah. Well, the summit between where you guys were and where our camp was, that was Marcus and Branson and I, but it was snowing and spitting and sleeting up there so bad, I didn't think anyone could see us up there.
Well, the thing is, we ended up going back up that same night.
You and Josh and...
Yeah, me, Josh.
It was the morning
Branson.
when we saw him, because I laid in the bed. It was like 6:30 before I crawled out of the bed, and some of you guys were already up there, like 7 or 7:30, I think.
Yeah, we left at like 4 o'clock in the morning, because we knew where they were.
Yeah, because there were 8 of them, all rams. We knew 5 for sure weren't legal. We knew.
Yeah, and then 3 that needed a closer look.
Yeah, and to get a closer look, it's a 4-hour hike.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I did it that morning or the morning before.
That's the other part. I was kind of told that, sheep hunting, you might see them 3 or 4 miles away, and you just got to hike there just to see if they're legal.
Yeah.
I heard that, but I'm like, nah, it can't be. It's got to be a way to really tell, because it's full curl, double broomed, or 8 years old.
8, right.
Yeah. And then, but then there's multiple ways that it can be full curl.
Exactly. Yeah. So
I've just decided next time I go in, I'm going to pack like a 155 millimeter scope. I'm going to bring a telescope. Yeah. Dang it, I'm not covering 6 miles for nothing unless it's full curl.
Yeah. Well, those ones fed up above us the night before season opened for the longest time. I remember going to bed that night, and it didn't get dark till 10:30, 10:45.
Yeah. You wake up at 3.
Yeah, I'm laying there. I'm like, oh man, that boy, I just like goody. I'm going to shoot one right above camp opening morning. But, well, like a lot of things, the best laid plans of man fall by the wayside. But, it wasn't due to lack of effort.
I was going to say, didn't you guys get on those sheep that morning?
We did. But, so this was the deal. I told Eric before we came up, he and Branson stopped in Bozeman on their summer vacation as they went, did their family visit across the West. I said, look, Eric, I can't afford, personally myself, with my platforms, to shoot something unless it is absolutely 100% known that this is a legal ram. And I'm not going to put Branson in that position, because if this is his first time guiding somebody, I don't expect him to take a risk on my part just to try and make me happy. So I'm not going to be kind of pressuring him. And so when we went up there, and Marcus, you kind of led the way up the ridge. from camp, we went up that spine. And actually, Branson was leading the way. I only saw you because
that is like 3 times as long as mine.
It's funny watching Marcus and Branson walk together because
Mutt and Jeff right there.
Yeah, it's like Marcus's feet are just going and Branson's just going boom, boom, and he's got a foot. When you see his footprint in the mud, it looks like Sasquatch.
Yeah, it's got to be like a size 14 or 15.
Yeah, you and I, we sink down in the mud or down in the moss. Not him. He just floats on top of it. And so that's what I said. You led the way because in the fog and stuff, all I could just see was a dot of Branson about 60, 70 yards ahead of me. I was trying my best. I was going to latch a rope to Marcus's pack, but he already had so much weight.
I was in this awe. I was like taking pictures and video and just bouncing around everywhere. I was just like, this is amazing. The sun was coming up. I was shooting panoramas and I was in photo heaven right there. That was fun.
Then we got about a third the way from the crest and the fog rolled in. And we lost sight of pretty much everything down below us. And we just followed the crest. Which direction would that have been? West?
Did you go to the right or to the left?
Yeah, once we got up there, we went right.
So that would have been southwest.
Southwest, okay. And there were some spots that I didn't think that was that sketchy on that spine.
No,
I
it was fine.
Easy. It's just, it was raining mixed with snow. And then we looked down in the valley you guys were in, and I saw 9 sheep, or 11. But those all ended up being ewes and lambs, right? Yeah. So
those were all in that big basin, big open basin. Yeah, we were glassing all of that basin and then everything on the side. That's why we kind of stayed there that night, was because we were seeing lots of sheep. So we just put the glass to them.
So we kept going and peeking down every chute. No, not there. Go to the next chute. No, not there. Unknown to us, they'd got up and they'd move further up the valley while we were doing our hike or when we lost them in the fog or something. And finally we get towards where I thought, well, this is it. Or, we lost them. And Branson peeks over. He's like, they're right there. And we're going in and there's 4 up on the hillside facing the direction. They'd be looking at us, the direction we're coming in. And then 4 bedded lower looking the other way. And we come around this big rock, and Branson's like, there's 2 right there. And Marcus is like, what are we doing? There's 2 of them right below us. And I'm like, I don't know. I've never hunted sheep before. And because Branson has shot sheep as a resident hunter. He just hadn't guided any. And so we get to this rock outcrop. And it is blowing and spitting. It's miserable. I was getting cold.
Well, you get up in the fog and the temperature drops by 10, 15 degrees.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
At least. And so we knew the 4 that were, 3 of them were sleeping. And I was surprised. We're in this little chute and there's a spine ridge, just a little rock spine between us and them. And as we're trying to cross that scree, there's rocks rolling down and they aren't even waking up.
No, they did not care about rocks rolling.
I couldn't believe it.
That's great.
First rock that went rolling, I'm like, I better get ready to shoot something there. No, they just keep sleeping. And so then we get there, but there's really no place to set up for all 3 of us. So Marcus and Branson are up above. Marcus is getting the camera on everything. And with that 600 millimeter lens, Marcus is able to get, at 190 yards, he's getting photographs that were really good. And for the listener, we couldn't tell if any of them were full curl. None of them. One was broomed, and the other side was close to full curl.
Yeah.
The biggest one, just massive one, dropped way down, but he wasn't even close to full curl. But he didn't look broomed either.
But he just dropped down and flared out instead of curling around.
And so we're left having to count rings. And so that when I was laying in the tent the night before, I'm like, when we get up there, I hope we don't have to count rings because that's
whole level of stress right there.
So sketchy. So we're laying there and I'm like, one of these is going to be legal. So I drop down to get to this little flat. It's a flat spot about 2 feet by 2 feet. It's like the only little in that jagged spine, the only flat spot I could rest a rifle without having it be like on a teeter-totter. And I'm like 5 or 6 yards below you guys, and the wind is just chucking. I can't hear anything. And I'm like, any of them legal? And you guys are still counting rings, still looking. And
well, the problem was we figured out that one, the big one that dropped down, was legal. He was 10 years old.
Yeah.
But then what happened is because you were getting lined up on that one, right?
I was dry firing.
Yeah.
You shot him a dozen times.
I did.
You know?
But I didn't at the time when I knew he was the heavy one because the gap between his horns. That's what I looked at.
Yeah, once they start getting stacked in there at the end, right?
Yeah, the little white strip between his horns, there was hardly any fur left. I'm like, well, he's got to be the old dog. So that's what I'm practicing on, waiting for the go call. And so then I told him, Marcus, I'm like, well, let's see if there's a second legal. That was our big mistake.
The fatal mistake.
We wanted to get like boom, boom, shoot 2 of them.
Did you have both rifles or just the one rifle?
Oh, we had both rifles. Okay. We were
dialed.
Yeah. So I heard somewhere along the way that one down there and the two bigger ones were bedded next to each other. One of those is, we think, 10. So I'm like, cool. But stupid me, I should have said which one. But the wind's blowing so hard. You guys are whispering something to me. And I'm like, what? I got my hood pulled up. Well, we sat there for a long time. And finally, the four little ones that were kind of sleeping wake up. And they look and they see us. And that's when I'm like, hey, guys, those other 4 are awake and looking at us. We better get ready. And
yeah, we got too greedy trying to make that second one legal. And he never turned his head. And like 40 minutes, he just like sat in one position and just
40 minutes.
40 minutes. We sat there. 186 yards is what my rangefinder said. And we are straight above them. Actually, the one that turned out to be the 10-year-old one, this is just my mistake of not saying which of the 2. Because when you guys said, I heard that one's got 10. I should have said which one.
Yeah.
And so instantly we're like, all right, we know one is legal. And so we go to the other 3 to try and make one of those legal. Well, we sat there so long that one, he stood up and took a pee, turned broadside, and I'm dry firing on him. I'm like, quick, because I'm practicing my breathing. When we first peeked over, I'm so excited I couldn't have pooped in a wash tub, man. I was like, my heart is thumping, and I'm like, all right, just dry fire a few times. Because for me, when I dry fire a few times, it gets my breathing in rhythm, it gets my heartbeat, and so he turns broadside, and then he even lays back down. And Marcus is filming me from above of me dry fire.
Great footage.
And but we were just getting greedy, trying to make out which of the other 3 might be legal because we both wanted to shoot one.
Yeah.
Well, finally, when those 4 stood up, they I don't know. Within a minute, once they stood up, they turned and they started moving around the corner out of sight. And then the 4 that had the 10-year-old and what we think was possibly a full curl on that one we called Curly, they got up and started following him. And the old one's in the back, and I'm following him. He's just walking. I'm yelling like, which one? Which one? The audio might not be that good. Because, I mean, he's filling up my whole scope. You know, you got this thing dialed up. I'm like, which one? And I'm
that good or not that clean?
What's that?
The audio is not that good or not that clean?
I think it's got a lot of expletives. That's going to be, it's going to sound like worse than PG-13, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But so they got around the corner, and once they got around the corner, they just hauled it. They took off running for 2 miles.
At least, yeah. And
we just watched these little white dots. And I turned to Branson, and he is feeling so terrible. I felt bad for him because I told him, I'm not going to pressure you. I'm just going to wait. He and I talked about that before the hunt even. And he's like, I feel so terrible. That's the biggest mistake in the world. And I turned to Marcus. I'm like, what do you think, Marcus? Marcus says, I'm going to puke.
I was sick. I felt so sick.
Oh, no.
But as soon as that happened, though, I'm like, you know what? My rifle is staying strapped to my pack until you pull the trigger.
Yeah,
we're not going to mess with it. Like, if we see a legal one, just shoot it.
Yeah. If we wouldn't have got greedy, I mean, we would have just said, let's shoot that one. And we were only a mile from camp, mile and a half.
Yeah. All downhill.
Yeah. It was, and he was so heavy. He was the ram that, of every ram I saw on this trip, that I wanted to shoot. And to mess it up first thing out of the gate, I'm like, oh gosh, why are we filming this stupid stuff? But
think of all that we would have missed had we doubled up on that first day.
You know, Marcus, I could have just sat in camp and ate Snicker bars for next week. It wouldn't have bothered me at all.
Yeah, let's talk about Randy's lunch. Randy's food bag. He tells Eric, he says, I want a breakfast skillet for breakfast. I want Snicker bars for lunch and Mountain House for dinner.
Yep.
And I think he just ate mostly just Snickers bars.
I ate a lot of Snickers bars on this trip. But Eric brought homemade dried mangoes. I ate more mangoes and cashews. I'm a big cashew
there was
guy.
Some good food in there.
Yeah.
But then there was also some like Twinkies and some I'm not so sure about all that stuff. Although I did eat a few.
Really?
When we knew that we had to cover a bunch of summits and just do some serious hiking, we're like, all right, we got to ditch all this junk, this food. We'll take 4 days worth of food, because that was our plan after we had seen a legal ram, which ended up being the one that I killed. We're like, we got to get back in here deep. Let's take 4 days worth of food instead of 10. So we stashed our food. That was the first thing I'm stashing, is the dates and everything else.
Yeah.
And the donuts. But then after we had killed and came back to that stash, we didn't want to take all that weight back up over the pass into where you guys were at. So we gorged on those donuts. That was a stupid. If I have one regret of this entire trip, it was gorging on all those damn donuts, man. Because by the time I got up to the top of that pass, I was just ready to puke. Like,
oh gosh. Well, the problem for me in this hunt, and I feel terrible, but there's nothing I can do about it. It was kind of like the blacktail hunt. I have this weird liver condition, and it's been giving me a rough ride this summer. And so when we did the blacktail hunt, I was really messed up. And then just that afternoon and then the next day hiking into our base camp, when your body can't process lactic acids and a lot of other toxins like I can't, it was frustrating for me, because after that, I don't know, what time did we get back after that stalk? 2, 3 in the afternoon, maybe?
Yeah, something
I don't
like remember.
That. My liver, I'm like ready to croak. I'm like, oh my gosh. So Marcus, you and Josh went out, or Branson went out and did some recon and filming and everything else. I just laid in the tent convalescing, hoping that I could go hunt the next morning.
Mostly I took photos. That was the night where it was just amazing light coming through the clouds, and it was incredible. But we did see some sheep. We saw quite a few sheep.
Oh yeah, you saw them.
A long ways away, nothing even close, but because we went and checked out those 11 that you saw, and then found a couple rams up above those.
Yeah, and I had known you had the liver condition, and I'd seen some of your hunts and films when you were affected by it and everything, but I'd never, you really don't. You just recognize, man, the man's sick, But being there the few days later when it hits you again, when Eric and I had connected back up with you guys, and seeing you that day, I was like, I was worried. I was like, dang, this guy has got balls of granite to be in here doing this stuff, because it was concerning to me to see when you came in that late that night after chasing those other rams that didn't didn't turn out being legal, and you left the group, and I mean, you staggered in. I was like,
yeah.
Wow, I it really upped a level of respect for you and the dedication that you have for hunting. But it also, I was like, maybe Randy's not as smart as I thought he was.
Well, I don't. When it gets that bad, you get a condition called hepatic encephalopathy, where you're semi-lucid. You don't.
Yeah, it was scary up on the mountain when you were trying to film and you're just like shaking uncontrollably.
He got into
not
camp.
good.
Yeah, and you made your own water, because at that point I'm still a little bit, I don't know exactly what condition you're in. You boiled water, and then you're talking to us, but I couldn't hear you. So I had to get closer, and next thing, I mean, we're like sitting side by side, and I couldn't hear you very well because you were shaking, and I could tell you just weren't functioning right.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's frustrating because there's nothing you can do about it. You try to plow through it, but plowing through it just builds more toxins and sets you back further. Yeah. So anymore, I know to go lay in that great big Hillyberg tent I carry, that everyone says, why does he carry a tent that big? Because when I got to rest, I got to rest. And I bet you I had the most comfortable tent in camp.
Oh yeah, I guarantee it. There were some words being said. You know, I mean, on a hunt like that, Eric. You know, it's the concern is having too much. You got to go in light, especially doing it the way Eric and I did. You know, we're packing 10 days of food and camp and everything else, and it's all about this has got to be light. This has got to be light, and I agree. Everything's got to be light, but I'm never going to sacrifice on a tent again. You know, I want something with a floor in it. I want something that's going to be dry. You know.
Yeah. But, well, the next day, we trying to remember what we did that second day. We kept getting inReach messages from you guys. We were sure because we heard some shooting, and we were sure that maybe Eric and Tim looped around over that way. Maybe they killed some.
Yeah, we thought you guys had killed something on opening day because there's
a lot of shooting.
A lot of shooting opening day.
Yeah. Well, and then the second day, we hiked way up by that glacier. Branson took us way up.
Oh,
past where the salt is stacked.
Everything is kind of blurring together now.
Yeah, because so many days.
Did you guys get up and then you were looking down into that glacier?
We didn't get up that high. We came up to the base of the glacier, and because that's where the rams had went.
Right.
And so in this area, there's a place where non-residents can't hunt.
Right.
And those rams were 300 yards into the boundary, 400 yards maybe. And you were watching them that morning while I was still trying to gather my marbles, and you were coming over to the tent. Hey, they're just milling around up there on the top.
It's right on the boundary, too.
Yeah.
They're literally standing on the boundary.
So we went up there, and they completely flushed further into the area where we couldn't hunt. But we sat there, and those other two rams came walking right underneath us. The one, what'd you count him at?
He was 7. Yeah.
7. So, I mean, that would have been such a
fun
150-yard shot.
Yeah.
We had one when the night before opener, we're watching this big ram that we knew he was full curl, but we knew there's no way to get to him it was at least a 2-day back around to get to him without being seen, or at least a full day. And we're just sitting there chit-chatting, thinking, this would be a great place to camp, blah, blah, blah. And I look up, and probably 35 yards, there's a 3/4 curl ram and 2 other smaller rams just staring at us. So we pulled out our phones and filmed, and I'm like, dang, these things aren't scared. So I crawled up the hill and grabbed my camera, my big camera, and filmed them. But it was like, it's really cool to get them close up. I mean, sheep are a pretty neat animal.
Yeah.
So it was fun.
Yeah. So we came down pretty late that day. We ran into that other resident hunter. What was his name? Trevor?
Yep.
Yeah, we watched him set up a camp right where all the sheep were crossing.
Oh, you're kidding.
We're like, oh, no.
Which ended up working out well for him.
Yeah, he ended up shooting that one we thought we called Curly.
Yeah, we're not positive, but yeah,
right.
He shot a sheep there.
Yeah,
so.
Oh, good.
A couple days later,
good.
but So when we got back that night, I was even feeling worse than I was the day before. And so and that's how I kind of plan it when my liver's giving me fits, is I can hunt for a day and a half, 2 days, and then I got to take a day off to let my liver catch up and clean my blood a little bit. And so Marcus, you and they left me with Jace and Josh, the 2 packers. I didn't wake up till like 11, maybe noon.
Oh, really?
And I come out of the tent, and Josh just had this worried look on his face, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with this guy? Because I get all
Randy Newberg, and he's almost dead.
I get all swollen and puffy, and he's like, let me get you some water. Let me get you some water. And later on that afternoon, as I started feeling better and the meds kicked in, he's like, Marcus said, I just got to make sure you have a lot of water and you sleep a lot.
and
did you give him that warning?
I did. I told him that's what helps, but...
and Josh,
now you're making me feel bad for just ditching you at camp.
I told you, I did wake up and say, get your ass out of here.
Yeah. Well, and Josh, to his credit, I mean, he was such a giving guy, you know, and always there to be helpful and do things too. He was really good at that.
Yeah, we were lucky. I really enjoyed the 2 hired packers
Josh
that Eric has, Josh and Jace. They're really fun conversation. They were grinding at the bit. In fact, that day, Josh was like, would somebody kill something? I came here to pack meat. I didn't come here to sit and tend to fire.
So what'd you guys do the next day? Loaded them up with a bunch of gear and said, here, pack this back out to the trucks.
Yeah, we did.
What day was that?
That was the day the camera crapped out.
Oh, it was. So that is the day we had him carry that. Or
No,
was it the next,
it was the next day, the day I shot my ram.
Yeah, because they were packing when we were hunting, yeah.
Right. Yeah, they just got back to our camp when we came out with my ram.
So, and that's a 26-mile round trip to the trucks from where we were camped? Yeah.
Yeah.
13 each way.
Yeah.
They did that in a day, just twice.
Yeah. Yeah, we sent them out with loads 2 times during the 9 days we were in there.
Yeah, one with the camera gear, and then later with
all
sheep
of our
meat.
Yeah, and the good part was the second trip they made, the creek had the raging torrent had subsided, so they were able to get their ATVs up to where all the other ATVs were parked. So
make it fair now.
That saved them, I think, probably 4 or 5
4 miles.
Yeah,
one way. Well, 4 miles one way.
Yeah,
so 8 miles.
But I remember that night, Tim, is when Branson turned on his InReach. He's like, my dad just said that Tim shot a ram.
Oh, sweet.
So there must have been, there has to be a story to that.
Oh, yeah, there's a story to it. I don't know that I'm as good a storyteller, but so that was on... that was the 3rd day of the the 3rd day of the trip. So Eric and I, obviously, we were in there a day earlier, and we just wanted to go deep. You know, that was one of the things, too. When we crested up over that first pass, we were looking at all these rams in your valley, and I'm thinking, there's 3 legal rams right there. And part of me wanted to stay, but the other part of me was like, you turn around and you look at the other valley and the other country, and I'm like... Yeah, let's go and explore, you know, because seeing all the sheep, my confidence was pretty high that in all likelihood, we're probably going to kill a sheep in here if we work hard. And our mentality was walk until we kill one, you know.
Yeah.
So we got down into that next basin, glassed up some sheep, and I actually looked down valley and saw a sheep. We put up the scope, and it was a ram that was, I don't know, at that point, he was probably 2 miles. And it ran down the face of this mountain to where we couldn't see it. And it was getting to be about 2 or 3 hours before dark. And we had decided, well, let's just go down there to that bench, cut the distance in half, and see if we can get a better look at the sheep. So we did. We just hiked down the valley and up onto this saddle. And we're watching these other sheep. And sure enough, that ram was back, but he was up in a higher patch of grass. I mean, just a totally isolated, probably 30 yards by 60 yards little patch of grass on this sheer face, just sheer face. And we're like, man, there's no way to kill that sheep. But we threw on the cameras and the scope and determined that he was a legal ram. Beautiful sheep, came down, curled out, more than full curl, just heavy. And I was like, I want that sheep bad. I want to. This is the night before season. I'm like, we can camp right here. I said, I'll sleep on the mountain right here. We'll find a way to kill that ram. And luckily, Eric talked me out of that. So we went back to camp that next morning, and then the plan was to go up over another pass into the next valley, hunt that for a day, and see what we see, and then work our way back down valley to where this ram was at, and hopefully kill him the third day, the following day. So that's what we did. We went up through the pass and over the top, and that took us all day. Yeah. So long, because that pass was bigger than the one that you guys saw us go over. So we're over this thing, and then just amazing country. And we look farther, and we're like, okay, we got to set our boundaries somewhere. We're not going beyond that mountain range right there. So we just hunted that area and got to another spot where we could see the pass that we had just come through, and we could see another couple of great big basins. And as we're going in to kind of determine where we're going to camp at, we picked out a little spot. This is about, 8 o'clock at night. And I thought, let's just go up in there just a little deeper, because I can't really see what's beyond this ridgeline. So no sooner did we crest this little ridgeline, and there was 3 rams bedded right up on the top of this little pinnacle, just staring at us. And one of them was almost he looked like he could have been a legal ram. So we set up camp and watching him, and just couldn't put 8 rings on him, couldn't make him full curl, but we set up camp, and by that time I'm bushed.
Imagine that.
About an hour before dark, and I called my wife and talked to the kids and everything, and then I said, Eric, I'm just going to crawl in and go to bed. And he's like, sweet, I'll go out and get some water and come back, because at that point 100 yards from the creek at that point. So he comes running back. He's like, big ram, you got to come look at this sheep. So he throws up this spot and scope right there, and I just climbed out. I'm in my underwear, and I'm grabbing my little butt pad to kneel on, because I'm in my underwear. And I throw up the binoculars. I'm like, pulled the camera out, filmed this ram that we were thinking was probably close to a 40-inch ram on the one side, just going up the ridge. And he had seen Eric walking back from getting water, so they were immediately spooked. Right. And we think that some other hunters might have spooked him out from the other drainage, and so I just filmed him, just skyline going up over him and another ram. There was 2 rams together, and they were 3 rams, and 2 of those rams were legal by far. Dang. Like big sheep. So then at that point I was like, I want that sheep. I'm killing him. I said, I don't care how we got what, 8 days left, 9 days left. I'm killing that sheep. Next morning we decided to just go straight up the ridge up to the top of this peak where that sheep had went over, in hopes of maybe picking up his track, or hopefully that he fed over into this other basin that we had just come from and maybe bedded up in there. So we went up there that morning early, super early, saw a bunch of sheep everywhere, couldn't pick up anything legal, and then the weather hit. I think it was probably the same weather that hit you guys that day.
Oh, brutal.
And we're up on this Hogsback peak, and we gained all this massive elevation. We're almost at the highest point in the area, at least on the side where we were at. And we spent all day up there just walking the ridges, trying to look down and find some sheep in their beds. And then it got to be where it was getting to be dark, and we're both looked at each other, we're like, dude, do we really want to lose all this elevation and go back down and camp down in the valley? And I was like, well, yeah, I don't want to die up here. So we found this he's like, let's just go look and see if we can find a little spot out of the wind. Because, the winds are blowing up there, 40, 50 miles an hour, just hammering you in the fog. So we found this little flat spot, and right next to it was this ice, a snowdrift with some water. So we had water and a flat spot. So we pitched our tent up on top of this peak. And I'm thinking, this tent's not staying up. this wind's going to just batter us all stinking night. This is going to be horrible. But we did it. We did it. I didn't sleep at all. Like, I did my best sleep from about 4 o'clock in the morning till about 7 o'clock in the morning was when I fell asleep. And I wake up to something tugging on my foot. And Eric's like, legal ram. And apparently he had been yelling to me from, I don't know, a ways away, Tim, legal ram. And he couldn't get my attention. Then he came and was standing outside of the tent yelling, legal ram, couldn't get my attention. So he had to reach underneath the floorless tent and shake my leg because I was just gone. And we crawl out and look at the sheep and I'm like, dang, I think that's the sheep we seen the night before opening night. And Eric's like, no question, that sheep's legal. Well, that sheep was a day away from where we were. I mean, that sheep was clear across the valley. I mean, long ways away. So we had to plan our stalk to go all the way around back down the back side of this ridge. And had we been able to just walk down the top of the ridge, no problem. But we wanted to stay off the skyline, right? And away from these sheep's view. So we're side hilling all the way around this thing, and we got down to this lower saddle that we had passed over the second day and had to be exposed. There was no way around it. So we just kind of just took our time and just slunk down that where the rams could see us, but they just didn't see us. You know, we were just invisible until we got low enough to where the way those sheep were bedded, we got below their line of sight. And at that point I was like, man, how did we dodge that bullet? You know? Then we worked around to directly below them. We were thinking maybe we could get below them enough and out in the bottom of this little valley enough that we could see up and get about a 400 or 500 yard shot at the sheep. And we couldn't see him, but it was still like 700 yards. It was just out of the question. So Eric had this stupid idea to go up the chute that was a couple hundred yards up valley from where the sheep were bedded. I'm like, that's never going to work. No way. You know, we'll roll some rocks and it won't work. And he's like, no, we got to try it. So we ditched all of our gear, just took our packs up and went up this shale slide in the chute. And something clicked. Like all of a sudden my brain just went like ultra sensitive. Ultra clear. Like, have you ever been in those moments where you're just like hypersensitive to everything? Yeah. You can hear everything. You can smell everything. Like, I mean, I'm paying attention to these pretty little blue flowers, you know, purple flowers I'm hiking up, and I'm smelling the mist in the air, and I'm just thinking, holy crap, I'm going to kill a sheep. You know, this is going to happen. Like it was this euphoric feeling of just total and utter focus. And we get up, we're rolling rocks, and I'm just thinking, who cares? Just keep going. And we crest over to where we wanted to be, and Eric looks up, and he gives me this type of thing. He's like, they're right there. And he says, they're still bedded, no problem. And so I began, you know, I set up my GoPro and get my cameras and stuff. And he's like, the little one's standing up. And right there, I was like, if they're standing up, they're moving. If they move very far, we're not going to kill this sheep. Yeah. He's like, don't worry, they'll be there. He's like, just keep calm, which I was calm. I was ultra calm. He's like, take your time. And I said, no, I'm not going to take my time. So I slid my GoPro up here and I poked up over the top and looked, and I had tossed him my rangefinder, so I had one less thing to have to worry about. He's like, 281. I'm thinking, 281, I don't even need to dial for that, you know, but I did anyway. I notched her a couple of notches and threw my pack up there and got up, and I could see the littler ram watching us, and that concerned me. And then got the camera just perfect, and you can see parts of the glacier in the background, you know, the depth and just the bokeh, the depth of field, everything just looked so amazing. And we're about eye level with this ram. And I get the pack up there, the rifle, and just everything's perfect. And Eric's saying, just give him some time, take his time. I'm like, nah. No. I go, I got one in the chamber. You better, I'm going to shoot. I mean, as soon as Eric saw the look on my face, his hands went straight to his ears. Plugging his ears. He's like, oh, crap. Because I don't think it was, 10 seconds between when I said I'm shooting to when I pulled that trigger. Yeah. You know? And It was just the most amazing thing. And I was watching this through some of the footage here a minute ago with Branson and that GoPro, like I shoot the ram and I'm just sitting there. And for a second there, it looks like I'm going to cry. Not cry, but like, and then I just started laughing my head off. I looked at Eric and I'm just laughing. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. You know, it just felt so great.
Yeah.
And the sheep kept himself from falling off the cliff. And yeah, it was great. I mean, it was like, man, nobody followed the script in this hunt, but they made it a lot better.
Yeah.
You know? It was amazing. It was amazing. Beautiful backdrop for the photos. I think I showed Marcus some of the photos.
Those photos are pretty incredible.
It's just such a feeling. And I'm sure you went through the same thing when you shot your sheep and finally had your hands on him. It's like, this is a dream that's been in the making for a long time. This is an experience that wasn't supposed to happen yet.
Right.
You know, it just wasn't.
I'd resolved I'm never going sheep hunting until Eric called, and I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
What made you say yes? Like, what did you... Because it was too good to be true.
It sounded too good to be true. And so I think Marcus was very influential in saying, but just think of the adventure. Yeah. Even if we don't kill, even if we just get some sheep on film, it's going to be a cool adventure. And I'm like, you know, I've blown that much money on dumber things. What the heck, you know? And we're already going to be up in Alaska for that blacktail hunt. Yeah. If our wives don't divorce us, it'll be worth it to be gone that long. So that's kind of where
I'm glad you did. I can't think of, you know, for Eric's sake and I think incredible to be able to pull you and I in there, you know, for your first season, first year. And then, for my sake, being able to spend camp with you guys was awesome, you know.
Yeah, it was fun when the whole hunt was fun, and then when you guys showed up, you guys weren't back yet, were you, Marcus?
No, I think we were. I'm trying to remember.
Well,
that was the day.
That's right. Yeah, that was the day. You guys came into our camp the day I shot my ram.
The other part of it, when you shot your ram, we had already dropped down into the bottom of the valley, and we were trying to determine whether or not we were going to hike up that big pass and come down and meet you that night, or if we were going to stay another night there and then come over.
Yeah.
And we were gathering up some of our food and stuff, and the text came through. Yeah. And Eric just yells, "Ram down!" So we're like hugging and high-fiving and stuff. And we both looked at each other. We're like, we're going over that pass right now because we're going to spend camp with these guys tonight. This is going to be a blast. You know?
Yeah, so, well, awesome. The day you shot your sheep, I spent, I don't really, I remember the day, but when I'm like that, everything's so blurry. And all I remember is I started feeling better later in the day. And Branson said he got the text that you'd shot your sheep that day. But then I went into like a little fretting mode because when Branson I'm getting ahead of myself. Branson said that when you guys got back. But until you guys got back that night, I was pacing the floor, man. I'm like, the weather blew in. It was so miserable. Cool. You guys aren't back. Have no idea where you went.
Did you get in after we got to camp? Because we didn't get there till like 8:30 or 9, I think.
No. So this is we're getting days mixed
up. The day
up.
before.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the day before you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, the day you shot your sheep.
The day you shot yours,
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. Well, we went on a scouting mission because we had seen when we were up on the boundary waiting for those 8 rams.
Right.
A long ways away, we saw rams.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those looks heavy.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I was trying to relocate those 6 rams that we'd seen from 4 or 5 miles away or whatever it was.
I do recall that morning when you and Branson left, I did stick my head out of the tent and said, if you find a ram and you don't shoot, you're fired.
You did say that.
And I meant it because I knew I didn't know if I was going to get better or worse.
Right.
And the last thing we need to do is waste days hunting. So
because the deal was he was going to keep his rifle on the bag until you tagged out.
That was the plan. But I mean, if my rifle's back in camp with me in my tent, hydrating and taking meds, it does no good for Marcus to be passing legal rams. So. But I'm glad you guys went on that trip.
Yeah, we went up to where we'd seen the rams from 5 miles away. Couldn't find them, but this kept going, kept circling around this big mountain, and it's kind of gnarly getting around the mountain. We had to do quite a bit of elevation up and down, but we got around there. As soon as we got around is when that rain hit, this nasty rainstorm. Yeah. But right when that rain hit is when we spotted 14 sheep, and we're like, 2 of those are for sure legal, but they're 550 yards away. And I'm like, I'm not shooting that.
Yeah.
And so we looked at them for a little bit, got a little bit of footage, and I was like, Branson, we can kill these sheep, but we have to hurry because we had to go around the mountain the other way, which required a ridiculous amount of elevation change up and down. We went through, there was 4 basins we went through that you go up and down and over the top. And it was it's all scree. It's all scree down and then scree up.
Yeah.
And we did it. It took us 3.5 hours to circle around.
Really? Just to circle around to get in position.
It was 550 yards straight line, but the way we went around was 3.5 hours.
Oh my gosh.
It was that was probably, I think at the end of that day, I said that was one of the hardest physical things I've ever put myself through in a short amount of time.
Really?
And, but we got above right where they were and they just weren't there. And we just ran out of light. And it's just like, we couldn't find them. I'm sure they were right there somewhere, but we just couldn't find them. So we just walked back to camp in the dark. And that's when we told you about them and like, we need to go back up there next day.
Yeah. Yeah, you were pretty excited when you got back. You woke me up in my tent. You're like, I found some rams we can kill. There were 14. What did you say? There were like 2 or 3 ewes and the rest were all rams?
There's like 2 or 3 ewes and maybe they were small rams, but I'm almost positive they're ewes. But anyway, 14 sheep together, most of them rams.
Yeah, and I've hunted and run around the mountains enough with Marcus to know that when he says, and I found a really easy way, that's usually not a really easy way.
That's
relative to what we did the day before. It was a long ways, but it wasn't.
Yeah,
we didn't have a whole lot of scree to walk through, which was nice. Just a little bit.
And because of your enthusiasm, I'm like, well, are they still there? You're like, no, they're not. I don't know where they are, but we'll find them. I'm like, oh no, I can see 18 hours of walking ridges, climbing scree slopes, trying to relocate these rams. But I have to do it because the hourglass is draining. I mean, that whole day of rest helped me a ton. So when I got up that next morning, I was like, all right, I'm ready to go. And thankfully, we went up there because I don't know, what did it take us to get up to that saddle where you cross into the basin?
I don't remember. It wasn't too terrible, but
3 hours.
Yeah. It's this long, steady uphill.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is the biggest stroke of luck, Tim. There's this last bit that, for the listeners who don't know what scree is, it's like little broken pieces of rock on these really steep slopes that when you take one step up, say it's a foot, you slide down 9 inches. And then you put your next foot up 12 inches and you slide down 9 inches. But in this spot, Marcus had found this sheep trail. It was like walking up stairways. They had beat that down. Yeah, it was nice. That little saddle, just sheep highway running through there. If every scree slope was like that, hunting that country wouldn't be nearly as hard. And so it's Marcus and Branson are in the lead, and I don't know, 15, 20 yards behind, going at my snail's pace. And they hit the deck. I look up, and they're both squatted down. I'm like, what the heck? Is it because the wind's blowing this hard? And Marcus turns to me and he gives the 2 fingers to his eyes like, I see him. I'm like, they're jerking my chain. I mean, because you'd told me, he said, as quick as we get up this trail, that's the basin that Is that the basin they were in the night before?
Yeah. I mean, so what we did that morning is exactly what I did the night before, but when we crested over, they weren't there. But then when we came up the next morning, they were there. Yeah. They were just somewhere out of sight that night before.
Yeah, and there were 4 of them laying there. And what's going through my mind, Tim, is opening morning or opening day. I'm like, and Marcus had said, "You're killing one, and we're not getting greedy on this one." And so, again, though, it was hard because none of them were absolutely full curl that we knew.
Right.
And so it was counting rings again.
Oh, gosh.
Nerve-wracking counting rings. And you and Branson are taking pictures and looking through the spotter. And now this time, I'm like crosshairs dry firing. And it's 424 yards. And I'm just like, as quick as someone says, this one, you better have that camera rolling.
Plug your ears, man.
Because I am not making the same mistake we did. But even at that, they were clustered up in such a weird arrangement, trying to know which one you guys were talking about. We're like making little pock marks in the dirt. Like, okay, this one's up here and these other 3 here. It's this one.
It did simplify it when there was the 4th ram just left.
Yeah.
And that was one of the ones that we were potentially going to shoot, and then he just disappeared. Just got up and left. And I go, well, I guess let's see if one of these other ones is legal.
So it just turned out to be one of those great, amazing opportunities. Like you were saying, when I was laying there, I'm like, this could happen.
It's going to happen.
This could happen. And then when Marcus sneaks up to me and says, we've both got at least 8 rings, probably more, on that one laying there facing away from us. I'm like, looked at Branson. I'm like, can I shoot him? And Branson's like, shoot that one.
Okay.
And so we'll have to look at the footage. I think that first, because we're shooting across the canyon. And we're in the low saddle on the other side of the canyon, and the wind's coming up straight in our face, really. And I'm thinking, it's coming really fast in our face. I'm thinking, okay, I'm shooting straight into the wind. Shouldn't be much of an issue. But I don't know what happened with the first shot, but you said it looked like it went right under his chin, I think you said,
I don't
something
know.
like that.
Mostly, I just thought it sounded like a miss.
Yeah. And then I couldn't tell. He stood up and looked around, and then the second shot felt perfect. And
we call those first shots warning shots.
Sporting chance.
Just let them know that, hey, something's coming your way, buddy.
But it was a hard shot. He was bedded facing away from me slightly uphill. So, my window of trying to get it over his hip and into his ribs was pretty narrow. And there must have been some crosswind there because if it went that far left. And then once I'm pretty sure that second shot is what really did him in. But I'm one of those guys that when an animal's still on its feet, I am still shooting. So if it sounded like there was a lot of shooting going on up there, there was shooting going on up there, because until that thing laid down and Branson said, you can stop shooting,
oh, gosh.
I was not stopping shooting.
It was pretty obvious once he started rolling down the mountain. He rolled a long ways.
Oh, how far do you suppose he rolled?
I don't know. It was a ways. I'm surprised the horns didn't get beat up.
Lucky, I know.
Huh? I mean, he's going head over heels, just like cartwheeling down this ridiculously steep face. And
what are you thinking the whole time that he's doing that? You're like, I'm going to have to find some horns up there.
Well, then when he finally did a face plant into a bunch of that like little pea-sized rock scree. Yeah. He just buried a horn in there. And when we were getting closer and looking, I'm like, oh no, he broke off one of his horns. I was thinking, great. After all this, I'm going to walk up there and I got a ram that's got a horn busted off at the base or something.
That is fine though.
He remarkably, lots of scratches. Tough. You saw the horns, Tim, how scratched up
I've seen way worse, but
really?
It's remarkable what those horns can go through.
All of his teeth were knocked out.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, I didn't, I brought home his lower 2 incisors or whatever they call them, the very 2 bottom front teeth. I didn't even have to cut them out. I just bent them over and cut the tissue. The taxidermist is going to have some work because he's got a bunch of fresh cuts and scratches and
He'll just make it look like battle scars. You know? Which your ram does look like a battler. He's a beast.
Yeah. Well, the other first thing I did is I started counting. I'm not an expert on counting sheep rings, but I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's all I care about. I felt so happy for Branson though, because he was feeling really bummed about the first day. And I put that on a couple things. One, we weren't going to shoot until we had absolute knowledge of the rings, and we got greedy. That's not Branson's fault that we got greedy.
I feel really bad about that. That's why I don't want to deal with it until.
But you probably felt the same way, Tim, that when we got done with all the picture taken and, I call it the gutting and gilling, that pack could have weighed a lot more and I still could have made it up out of that valley down into where we needed to go. I was like...
I think had it been, I don't know, a mule deer buck, something you've killed dozens of them before, then a heavier pack would have sucked, But just being that it was what it was, and something special, and just the amount of adrenaline that was probably flowing through our veins at that time, and it's probably the closest thing you could think about to an out-of-body experience, really. Yeah. There was no way Eric and I should have been able to do what we did with the amount of weight and the amount of gear that we did that first night when we heard that you killed. We should have been unconscious, sleeping down at the bottom of the valley. But the amount of just energy and excitement that we had, there's nothing stopping me from getting that sheep over the mountain and into camp with you guys, Yeah,
well, I can tell the whole world that if it wasn't for Marcus and Branson and their recon mission and how they planned that out while I was in the tent trying to recoup that day before, there's no way I would have killed that ram. I
think Marcus worked harder than anybody on that entire.
I would say.
Marcus and Eric both. Those two. Neither one of those two took a day. I even took a day. But Marcus and Eric, man, just full bore. Bore.
Well, when we finally got back to camp with my ram, I was spent. I was like, man, my liver. If you don't give it enough time to cleanse yourself really good, it just comes back so fast and with so much of a vengeance. By the time we got back to camp, I was like, I am so thankful camp's not 10 yards further. I think I would just lay down in the tundra and let the mosquitoes eat me.
But you packed your own ram out, dang it. Nobody was getting those horns from you for nothing.
Well, that's true. I had the head and the cape, and I think, Marcus, you took some of the meat, and Branson, he's just like, give me all that. You know what, Branson? I'm 3 times your age. I'm not going to argue with you.
Right?
Here you go. But that was a fun day on shooting the sheep. But we got back about, an hour before Josh and Jace hauled that big camera and all that now useless gear out because our camera fritzed. And they came back and they had no idea we'd shot a sheep. And they were really excited. And then like 10 minutes after they showed up, you and Eric showed up. Yeah. And that was really cool, really fun to just sit around the fire and
I wish it wasn't rain. That's at the time when you wish the weather would have been better and we could have had some Adirondack chairs.
Right. Yeah.
Although that is the night we cooked up the ribs and the right. Yeah. That was really good.
If there's one good part about me shooting my ram on the 4th day of a 7-day hunt, is by the time we left, we ate both back straps, the ribs.
Yep.
Branson got into a front quarter and carved a bunch of shank meat off a front quarter and put it on a stick one night.
Down,
yeah. So I didn't have a lot of meat left to worry about getting packed out of there.
I was almost a little jealous that they were eating your sheep and not mine.
No, when I do these hunts, I always bring in a baggie full of marinade that just requires some water mixed to it, and so
that was so good.
Yeah, we did a couple nights.
Yeah, we did.
That was so tasty.
Well, that day Randy and I had all day in camp when you were out hunting with Eric, we got this nice flat rock and got the coals just cranking. I mean, we fed that fire. We went on 3 or 4 wood gathering missions.
Yeah,
we fed that fire so day, and then Randy's like, I'll bet we could cook a backstrap on that rock right there.
I learned that from Marcus one year, Wyoming elk hunt.
Yeah.
And so Tim and I, we polished off probably a half a backstrap.
I guarantee it.
But man, it was good. It warmed us up in that miserable wind and rain, and all we could think about is you were up there with Eric and Branson searching for your sheep, because I killed mine on day 4. Day 5, I was like wiped out.
I think, is that the day that I went with
That's the
him?
day you said, look, here, Randy, you just stay here. I'll do the filming. And
the days are kind of a blur.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's probably a day or 2 in there
I can't even tell you what I owe Tim Burnett for him seeing me not doing well and saying, I'll go do the filming today. You just stay here and get better. And
it wasn't for you, Randy. I just wanted to hunt more. Sorry.
Oh, darn. Here I thought it was because Tim wanted to be my friend. Now I find out he just likes to hunt that much.
Selfish reasons, man. All selfish. I just wanted to hunt more.
No, we were watching you guys. It was fun to sit in camp with the spotter and watch you guys. You'd pop up every once in a while, and then you disappeared for the longest time.
That was a march, wasn't it? That day. That was a pretty good little march.
Yeah, that was good.
Well, you probably should tell the story of that day, Marcus.
Yeah.
I was the cameraman /
You were actually
potential packer.
You were
on that
the
mission.
ace spotter that day, though.
Yeah.
You spotted a ram from camp, which got us up out of camp.
Right.
And then we couldn't find him, so we just kept walking, couldn't find him. And it's always the case where you're like, well, we got to see what's over the next ridge.
Yeah.
But then it would fog in, and then we couldn't see anything. So we'd wait, and the fog would clear. Didn't see anything. Go up to the next ridge. And at one point, Tim looks back and goes, well, there's some sheep.
Yeah.
And we get them in the spotter, and Eric's like, there's some big sheep over there. We need to go over there. We need to go back there.
It was a long way. It was like down and then back up.
Because that was day 6, actually.
Yeah, we skipped a day.
We did skip a day. If we want to tell that.
Yeah, day 5.
We want to tell that story.
What happened on day 5?
That's when we went up we were in the fog for most of
it.
it.
Oh, you guys went up. That's right.
Yeah, Randy was there.
Yeah, I was thinking, I'll tough it out. I'll film today.
I was filming from the base of that. There was some cool stuff.
Yeah, and then we got in that fog line.
we almost got. I had those rams in the rifle scope at 200 yards, but it's just too foggy. You couldn't tell what was what, and I just we thought one of them was likely legal.
Yeah,
or we thought one of them was that 10-year-old.
Right,
is what we thought from day 1.
Yeah,
but just couldn't tell, and then ended up chasing them into the fog.
Yeah, all the way
waiting for it to clear.
Yeah.
And so we sat there for 3.5 hours or so, 3-4 hours, and then started all right, we gave it up. Started dropping down.
What's funny is we watched you guys go up into the fog, and then we're like, dang, I can't film anymore. And then here comes the sheep out of the fog.
Oh no!
And beds down on the ridge, and I'm thinking, they didn't see him. So it was almost all day long. And the next thing you know, I see you guys coming down the ridge, and then that's when you seen him.
Yeah. Well, so we drop halfway down the mountain, and then we see the ram outside the fog. Like, dang it! And so we're like, well, at least the fog will cover us.
Yeah.
While we go back up, but at that point, you were just not doing very good.
Yeah. Yeah. I got
that was
that second trip up to the ridge. I don't know. We were maybe a fourth away from the crest, and I just realized, man, I'm a serious liability right now for a lot of reasons. One, I'm shaking so bad, not because I'm cold, but I can't hold anything still. I can't buckle buttons. I couldn't do anything. And so I felt terrible, but I knew that for me to try to follow along with you guys, I was just going to slow you down. So I gave them all my water, all my food, and I said, you know what? I'm going to ski this slope of scree right down to the bottom.
It did not take you very long to get down the bottom. No. I was surprised because I saw the 4 silhouettes coming down, and then I only saw 3 going back up. And that's when Josh and Jason and I were talking. I'm like, so Randy's probably not feeling too good.
Yeah.
But it wasn't 15, 20 minutes, and you were walking across the bog.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised.
Yeah. But
maybe you teleported.
I don't know, but I felt so terrible. I felt like I was really letting you guys down, but it just... You reach a point where you have to say, all right, neither outcome is good, but what's the better of the bad outcomes?
Yeah.
And so
that was scary. You did not look good.
Yeah. But anyhow.
That was a good encounter. Like every day, it seemed like there was some fairly good encounters.
Yeah, we had encounters every day.
Because you guys got on that ram eventually,
yeah, we made
right?
an epic stalk. We'd climb back up the mountain, and then we'd wait for the fog to roll in and make a move and get above him, and we circled way around, got above him, dropped in on him, got 200 yards away. Everything was perfect. I had the rifle out. I thought it was a 10-year-old. And I was just Eric got the spotter set up, and I was like, oh, this is going to happen. Like, it's going to be so perfect. I had the camera on him, and he's just, the light is perfect. It's 200 yards away. He's just feeding, has no idea we're there. And Eric's just like, I'm only getting 7 rings. Like, I'm only getting 7 rings. And then I look through the spotter. I'm like, oh, yeah, that is not the same ram. It's just, and so that was really sad. But it was as sad as it was. Like, it was so amazing. Just the light and just being up that high and looking at those sheep that close. Like, I just wanted to sit there and watch them forever. And then I think I sat there and took so many photos and so much video that Eric and Branson were kind of like, all right, like we need to go now. I'm like, just a little bit longer. Like, just wanted to soak it all in.
Well, Tim had his own big. What lens is that you have?
It's just a little. What is it? A 50 to 200, but I've got a 2x extender on it. Okay. And then
because Tim was giving us a play-by-play through his lens.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they're setting up. Marcus is pulling his rifle up, and then Josh is on my spotter, and between the two of you, I'm looking through my binos. I can't make out. I can see objects, but it was fun just to sit there and listen to you guys. I was just waiting for the rifle shot, and then when you guys packed up, Josh says, "That body language looks like the sign of disappointment." He said.
Yeah, you can see Branson get up and get about 10 feet below him, and he's just sitting there, just kind of hunched over and throws on his coat like, this sucks.
Anyhow, that was the day 5.
That was a...
So day 6 is when I woke up and Tim said, "Step aside, Randy. I'm going to go film this."
New sheriff in town.
Yeah,
taking charge.
I appreciate that. So... But anyhow, you guys...
That was a fun day.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we had seen those sheep.
We chased that ram you spotted from camp, and we got over, and you spotted... Yeah, so we spotted those ones somewhat back the way we came, but they were in a totally different drainage.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was a long up and down to get to them. And we got to, 600 yards away? We popped up in that saddle, and they were 600 yards away. And Eric throws up the spotter, and he's like, oh, yeah, no doubt. That is a legal ram. That is absolutely
You could
legal.
almost see with your naked eye that thing was just...
He was just full curl by a long shot.
Yeah.
Just so long. And so I was excited, but then it's just like, there's seemingly no way to get closer.
That's where Eric's experience as a guide and being in mountains like that and terrain like that took over.
Yeah.
Because the whole time Eric was like, he was like stepping back, letting Marcus just run his hunt and do his thing. And he did the same thing with me, and to just enjoy it, to not feel like you had a commander there telling you what to do. But at that point, I was kind of like you. I'm throwing my hands up. I'm like, we're not getting closer to the sheep because I'm looking up, I'm looking down.
There's just no way.
Thinking, well, we could just bum rush them and hopefully get into range fast enough before they go over the ridge, Let's do that.
On the count of 3, let's rush him.
Yeah. Well, and I think we had a conversation about that. Should we just go, But Eric found this way up through this, sketch. Like,
yeah.
It's a good thing we didn't film a whole lot of it because my wife would say, "You're done, retire now." Because if you keep doing that stuff, you're going to be dead.
Wow.
Yeah, there were some pretty big cliffs below us,
but we did it. Like he got us right in there.
Yeah, I didn't even really think about it in the moment. Like on the way back is when I started like after everything happened. Like on the way back, it's like this was kind of sketchy.
When we were trying to find a safe way back.
Yeah, but anyway, so we closed the distance and got within what I thought was my comfortable range.
425 yards,
something like that.
Something like that.
And we got set up, and there's 2 rams together. There's some other smaller rams down below us.
Yeah, the broomed ram and then the big ram.
Yeah, and so the broomed one's standing there broadside. I get set up. I got so steady. I thought everything was perfect, and the broomed one's just standing there, and I'm like, Eric, is that one legal? And he's like, I'm pretty sure it is. And I'm like, are you 100%? He's like, it's like that other one's a lot prettier.
He says, I'm about 95%, but that other one's way prettier.
And so on the big one, all you could see was one of his horns sticking out from behind a rock, and I could just see that rolling around, and I was like, yeah, okay, well, I'll wait. And then finally he steps out.
They butt heads.
They started butting heads, and they were actually sitting there touching heads when I touched the trigger off, and I missed.
I think because that was a pretty severe slope. I don't know percentages or whatever. That was a pretty severe slope angle, and I think he probably just was looking at that and just compensating. Just got the rifle turned just a little too much.
It's very possible
because the way that bullet dropped in there, it just makes sense to me because it barely missed the front of that.
But also, I was just part of it. I think was just the fact that I was just so excited, and I just missed. I missed.
It was hard to sit there and watch that double broomed one that broomed one just standing there.
Yeah, and
perfect on frame.
I felt good. It felt good, but I just missed. And then missed again. Well, and then they ran away.
Then they go a little bit farther, and you're like, well, heck, should I shoot again? And I'm like, might as well.
Yeah, but no, it's just.
But you still had a day left after that, Marcus.
Yeah,
I
felt so defeated though. As soon as we watched those rams, they walked over the skyline unfazed, and it's just like I'm like, I'm done. Like that was my chance, and I blew it. But
what was your mindset? Because when we started walking back to camp, it was like Marcus was gone. It was all we could do to keep within a couple 100 yards of yours. He's pissed. We'll just keep up with him.
I don't know. It took me a while to kind of reconcile with that, but I figured out, I'm like, that was my one chance, and I messed it up, and I missed, but oh well.
Yeah.
But because that was one day left after that.
Yeah, day 7.
Day 7.
And when you woke up that morning, you said, I am walking until I die or kill a sheep.
Basically, I think I'm walking until I kill a sheep, or we're going to walk until our feet bleed or something like that. Yeah.
And I had to check out. I told those guys, I was like, I've pushed too hard this week. I can't go with you tomorrow.
Especially with the long pack out the next day.
Yeah.
So it was you, Eric, and Branson on a mission.
Yep. And we had seen, from the other side, 3 rams the night before that we thought one of them looked decent. They're like, that one looks pretty heavy. So that was all we had to go off of. And so and it was the same big mountain that we chased your sheep, that you got your sheep on. And we just like, all right, well, let's go back there. And we set up, got up, not super early, but, got up the mountain and just couldn't find anything. Found a couple half-curl rams, some ewes and lambs. And then eventually we got up high just about to where me and Branson had done the big drop down and come back up to circle around the mountain.
The 3.5 hours to go 550 yards track?
Yeah, one of those basins. We only did one of them this day. But we got there, and then all of a sudden, like, there's some rams. And they just started circling around the mountain. And so we just started following them around the mountain. And then we got around to a saddle and spotted them again. And we'd get him just in the spotter long enough to, like, oh, maybe. And then they'd disappear again. We could never tell if there was a legal ram or not. And I think we saw 4 that I don't even remember, to be honest. I want to say there was 4 though. And anyway, and it sucked because like we'd get at the spot, priority was like, let's get the spotter set up and see if there's one legal. And then by the time that happened, I didn't have time to set up the lens and get any footage. And so I apologized to the YouTube audience, and that day I'm like, I'm sorry, we keep getting on these rams, but I don't get any footage because we're trying to see if one of them's legal. And anyway, we finally circled almost all the way around the mountain, and there's basically those 5 basins that circle the mountain, the 4 of which we had done that one time, and we got around to the last basin. Like, they got to be in here. So we get to the last basin and look in, and sure enough, we find the rams. It was after the fog cleared, we find the rams, and we can't tell. Like, there's one that looks pretty good, but again, we were like 600 yards away, and we couldn't tell. And we're just like, we need to get closer. But seemingly, like a lot of these situations, it's like, there's no way to get any closer. It's like, so there's nothing, there's no way. Like, and so Eric's like, well, maybe if the fog rolls in again, we'll just inch up there. But the fog wouldn't roll in. And eventually it was getting pretty late. And we're like, well, what if we just start moving really slowly and just like, maybe they won't see us if we just kind of move real slowly towards them. And we're like, all right, let's do that. And so we kind of packed everything up, and we'd got some footage from up there. And so we packed everything up, started dropping down. And as soon as we started dropping down, this huge snowflake started falling. It was perfect. And it was just like, it just broke us up enough that like you could see them. Like if you kind of had to look with your binoculars to see them through all the snow. But we just kept inching up slowly. And as this, the snow was coming down so hard that we figured we were camouflaged enough, and we got to maybe 500 yards, and then the snow just let up, and like you could see them clear as day. And like, crap, we just waited, and just snow would pick up a little bit. We'd move a little bit, and it seemed pretty risky. But eventually, we got close enough that we dropped down out of sight, and we're like, all right, this might actually work, and got all the way out of sight, came up a ridge, and they were like 300 yards away. And but then got 300 yards away before Eric could tell if one was legal again. Fog rolled in, and we just couldn't see him at all. And so fog rolled in, and like we just would keep inching up, and we got set up on these rocks where it's like, this is a good shooting position. If one's legal, it's going to work out perfectly. And then finally the fog would clear, and we'd only see the two small rams. Like, where'd the big one go? Like, he's got to be lower. Fog would roll in, roll out. But anyway, eventually it cleared enough. And Eric goes, that one's double broomed. Take him. And I was like, shoot him? He's like, yeah. He's like,
because you've got like 2 hours left in your hunt.
Yeah, and then so many times, like we got up on rams. Like, I mean, I feel like we told a fraction of the encounters we had even. Yeah. And it's like they weren't legal or whatever the reason was. We couldn't make it happen. And so I was like, okay. And I had set up Branson earlier on the long lens and the camera, and so I look back at Branson, I give him the thumbs up, and he gives me a thumbs up. I look at Eric, he gives me a thumbs up. I'm like, all right, here we go. And it wasn't 5 seconds after that, I just laid down and shot him, and it just crunched him, and he rolled out of sight, and like, they're like, you got him. And I was like, all right. And unfortunately, we didn't get the shot on film. We got the ram.
So what was the thumbs up? He was just happy? He's like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good, thanks.
I'm not exactly sure what happened, but unfortunately, we didn't get the shot on film. But I played it back, and you can kind of hear the gunshot, the tail end of the gunshot, and the ram's rolling and just rolls out of sight. And
that's awesome.
So I was elated. Like, I was mostly in shock. Just like the fact that, like, in my mind, we were done. Like, it was the last day, the last few hours.
That's amazing.
We got that ram, and he only rolled 20 feet. He's just laying right there. It was...
Yeah, we were standing at the campfire chatting about something. And then we hear just the one shot. And I remember we just sort of kind of looked up at the mountain. We're waiting for another shot, and it didn't come. We're like, that's got to be where those guys were at. You know?
I got so excited I dropped my favorite pair of Sitka mittens in the fire.
Right. Oh, really? Burned the fingers of his gloves off.
I'm so happy for you, Marcus. Oh, awesome. You worked so hard. I've never, I wish we would have had like a third party documenter filming how hard you worked on this hunt. The number of miles and elevation gain over the course of those miles is just crazy.
That was a major part of the discussion back at camp with the Packers and with Branson and everybody, because we didn't spend 5 days with you guys.
Yeah. And
the whole topic of conversation was how big of a badass Marcus was, how hard he's pushing and how he's working so hard and go. They can't believe how much weight he's carrying and country that he's covering. So
I don't know about that.
It was the Marcus week, man.
Yeah. Well,
it was a lot easier once we ditched about 75% of the camera gear.
Yeah.
Things got a lot easier.
Simplicity is king, man. I'm telling you. You should produce your show just like SoloHunter. GoPro and an iPhone, you're good, bro.
It'll be interesting, like the production quality throughout that. If anyone watches the day-by-day series, the production quality is going to start really high, and then it's just going to get progressively worse.
Isn't that part of the story, though?
That is, Tim. I think that is part of the story. It's just the reality you're faced with when you're doing a backpack over-the-counter Dall Sheep hunt in that wild country. I can see where if we could have flown in there and we could have stashed all kinds of great gear at a base camp and just had a huge basin where, over on that mountain tomorrow, over that mountain the next day, that's doable to keep the production quality high. But with what we did, I even told you so when you traded out the FS5 for the.
If it hadn't fritzed out, I would have continued to try to use it. But the fact that it fritzed, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't super sad that I was having so much trouble with it. Just like it made things a lot easier because only this trekking poles in that country are. I feel like after doing that for a week, a necessity.
Yeah,
absolute.
No question.
When you have that big camera, you can only use one trekking pole.
Yeah.
And even at that, it's kind of cumbersome because a lot of times you want to use two hands with that camera, so you have to set down the trekking pole or whatever. So it's a lot easier with a small mirrorless setup, I do have to say.
Yeah. Well, the good part is on the day you shot your sheep, Josh and Jace took all of my meat and my cape and a few other things.
They took all of my meat.
They took all of yours also?
Yeah, the only thing we kept was that backstrap of yours.
Right.
And we sent out all of my meat and all yours and your cape. I kept my cape because there's no way in hell I was letting anybody touch that.
Yeah. And so fortunately, they did that because you think about if we had to carry that extra 100 pounds or whatever they took out.
They took out probably 140 pounds worth of stuff that day. Yeah.
If we would have had to add 140 pounds to what we already carried yesterday for that 13 miles, we would be, it would not have been.
And we covered that 13 miles. We left at 8 o'clock shortly after, and we got there at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
So we were humping.
And that's the day I was not kicking ass. I was dragging very hard that day.
I was worried about you that day.
Randy kept past me, and I'm like, gosh dang it, I can't let Randy beat me up the hill. So
I wasn't
kick it in gear.
I was not. The only reason I passed you, Tim, is because when people take breaks, I'm like, if I stop, I might not get started again. So I just kind of keep my little chug going. But no, Tim was like a glimmering dot going through the snow up ahead above all of us. So.
I was a manimal. I had probably 250 milligrams of caffeine in my veins.
Oh, really?
I was going. Well, those guys are like, everybody's taking off their packs and resting. I'm like, the quicker I get to camp, the less time I have to spend with this pack on my back, the happier I'm going to be at the truck. I think I said.
I was just grateful that the water level in that huge river, creek, whatever you want to call it, was down. And quite honestly, yesterday, crossing those river crossings, I didn't care.
Yeah, nobody was caring anymore just to walk through it.
Some of us are standing there thinking, how are we going to tiptoe across this? And Randy just comes right from my right shoulder, just splash right across. I'm like, oh, we're good. If Randy's good, I'm good.
But what a remarkable experience. I'm not saying this just because you're here, Tim, but the last 4 days or 3 days, whatever it was, when you and Eric were able to join us, it really added a lot to the experience. And just something like this is fun to share with people, I think.
Yeah, that's one thing that over my career with SoloHunter is there's a lot of stuff that I go without, a lot of opportunities that I miss out on just from the camaraderie and spending time with other hunters and getting to know. A lot of it is self-induced because I pull myself out of those situations because of SoloHunter.
Yeah.
So to be able to do that and experience that, especially with guys like you and Marcus and Eric and all the guys that were there in camp, and it was tremendous. And to be able to do that on a true, not just categorized dream hunt, but a true dream hunt. This is what I've dreamt about as a kid when my brothers and I first started watching Dwight Shoe videos and all these old hunting videos as kids. Like, where the dream hunt's a Dall Sheep hunt, it's going to cost $6,500, and maybe we can do it when we're in our 30s. And we're like these teenagers planning out this Dall Sheep hunt, It truly became a reality. And I know you've got a really touching backstory that you shared on the Dall Sheep that never happened.
My grandfather lived here in Alaska he moved up in 1976, I think it was. And in 1999, we were ready to go. In Alaska, you can do the second kindred rule, and he'd qualify. And so we were going to fly up to the Brooks Range. They had been doing sheep hunts up there and had remarkable success. And so they invited me, and then just a little while before we were ready to go, they're like, something came up. I can't even remember what it was, but they said, well, we'll have to do it next year. And next year never came. I came up and we did some fishing, and I actually did a brown bear hunt with my grandpa under the second kindred rule, but he passed away before we got that sheep hunt rebooked. So it was pretty cool sitting there thinking about him and, the hunt that never was, but it was, it was cool. Did you see the look on Eric's face? Maybe you couldn't see it when we were driving in yesterday. I'm like, well, Eric, or was it this morning when I asked him, did it turn out? Yeah, it was when we were driving this morning. I said, Eric, did it turn out how you expected? He said, I can't even tell you. He said, I thought if one of you three killed the ram, that'd be pretty good. Yeah. I thought if two of you killed the ram, that'd be excellent. I didn't even dare think about all three of you killing a ram or something like that.
Yeah.
So he's been a really, really quality guy.
I just told him, I'm like, I don't know how lucky of a person you are, but, I feel like having you and I in here on your very first trip is just a gift for Eric, Really a special thing.
Yeah, I think Eric's going to get us.
It was special for me.
Those people who are listening, I'm sure, are like Googling, who's this Eric Lee guy?
That poor guy, he's going to get hammered, and he's still got to figure out what he's going to do for next year.
This morning I said, Eric, I posted a picture on Instagram last night, and the number of emails I've got about who is this guy and I'm like, I think the price of your hunts are gonna have to go up.
Yeah. I have 3 guys. They're like, we're doing that next year, right? I'm like, well, I can't. I got to wait a few years.
But it's, I think if Eric continues to do it, when you guys were talking about the day that Tim, you were filming Marcus, how Eric just lets you kind of do your hunt. I mean, he's got to be there with you. That's the law. He's got to be right there. And he does. But even Branson, he kind of let us, well, what do you guys want to do?
Yeah.
And so I think that's probably a bit of a unique way. I've not been on a guided sheep hunt, so I don't know. But
I don't know. And a lot of the conversations that I've had with, my taxidermist and friends in the taxidermy shop that go on a lot of sheep hunts and that, this is a rare deal. It's a rare opportunity that you can not call all the shots, but that you can actually hunt, experience the hunt. And maybe that's because it's still exploratory for Eric. And I'm sure there'll be some clients where they have to work them along, but that wasn't what you and I were all about. We're about doing it on our own,
Yeah. So I just hope that anyone who books with Eric is not looking for drop me off and we'll shoot one just above camp thing.
Yeah.
You better have your feet and your back and your legs ready to do some serious business.
Marcus was, how many miles, if you were to just range a guess, how many miles were you into your sheep before you killed it? Way more than I was.
I have no idea.
I'm guessing 100 miles.
To be honest, in that stuff though, miles are almost irrelevant because some of the miles, like if you're just hiking down the valley, those aren't bad at all. Hiking on the tundra, but then like that when we covered those 4 basins, I mean, that was only
probably more.
That was maybe only 4 or 5 miles, but that was the most brutal 5 miles that
it was probably
ever hiked.
It's probably that many thousands of feet of elevation change, to just do that.
Well, I'm thankful people listen. I hope that they understand that this was a dream of mine. I've been talking about it on prior podcasts. So if I probably should have put this disclaimer at the beginning that if you didn't want to hear a story about a guided sheep hunt, whatever level of guided it felt like, go turn on Oprah reruns and listen to that or something. But it's just a dream of mine. I think everybody who hunts has dreams, and I would encourage anyone to go and follow those dreams. I've got one more. I was telling you this on the way out, Tim. I got one more dream hunt for me, and that's mountain caribou, and I'm doing that next year. And the only place you can do it is in British Columbia or northern Canada, Yukon. And you got to go guided. And it's just, I'm at my age, I'll be 54 pretty soon, where I'm going to do it. And maybe I shouldn't have to feel like I got to apologize or make the disclaimer, but I don't want the audience to feel like I'm betraying them in any way, because we do all self-guided hunts, but there are dreams we all have. And sometimes the realities are, there's only one way to go do it. And so,
well, you've always been, throughout your entire career, I've followed you since your career began, since I was younger watching things, and you've always been a strictly public land advocate. Yeah. You've always been strictly do it yourself on your own adventures, But that doesn't mean that you don't take advantage of opportunities that are placed before you.
Right.
You take. And as anybody, I can't imagine anyone would ever turn down an opportunity to hunt Dall Sheep or to hunt mountain caribou, regardless of guided or unguided. Because it's not, the guided or unguided is not necessarily the criteria that makes it a hunt or a non-hunt. Right. This is a hunt for a dream, for an adventure, and for a dream species that you want to spend some time with. So if anybody has negative thoughts towards it, pound sand, man. Pound it.
Yeah, my statement I usually have for that is, you've mistaken me for someone who cares.
Yeah, right. That's right.
But we're going to have this hopefully up on our YouTube channel, Marcus, the day by day, not long after this podcast drops.
Yeah, we're gonna try to get it edited quickly.
So if you want to watch it, Randy Newberg Hunter YouTube channel is where you'll be able to see the day by day. And Tim and I, while solving all of the problems around the campfire, have been trying to figure out how we could do something jointly in the way that we release the final polished products on these.
Yeah, I think what we can do, because you have your day-to-day, which I thoroughly enjoy. Like I mentioned that to you the first day that we spent some time in camp. I love those day-to-days on all the hunts, and I love that they're unedited and they're just pretty raw, and it is what it is. Like it's a perfect format for YouTube. Well, my plan was to release, a similar uncut, Tim's cut version of each of my adventures to my All Access members.
To your All Access members. Tell people how they find out about the Solo Nation All Access.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I distribute my content in a lot of different ways. So the number one way with the All Access is that's a membership. And those are things that we release as quickly as possible. And there's added discounts, and benefits for SoloHunter merchandise or the other affiliate products that we sell on the website. They're also entered into hunt giveaway, or we've done a hunt giveaway. They're entered into product giveaways and just special things, kind of perks of being a member of the Solo Nation. And that's called All Access. And we released season 9, all of the seasons of the show to that prior to going to television or prior to going to YouTube.
Okay.
And so they'll see this film if all goes well. I've got 10 days before my next trip, So as soon as I get home, I'll be cutting the raw version of this together. It might be 2 hours long. It could be 3 hours long. It's just going to be the raw adventure that'll be released to the All Access members. So hopefully about the same time that you're doing your day by day.
Yeah.
So, which I'm extremely curious about to see your day by day, because I know what my day by day was.
Yeah.
I didn't see yours. I just heard the story for today. Yeah. So I'm really excited to see the perspective of Randy and Marcus versus the perspective of Tim and Eric.
Yeah.
So we'll release that to All Access, hopefully that same time frame. So I think you and I should get together and chatter about it, on Instagram and Facebook, letting people know these are a couple of dream adventures that turned out extremely well.
Yeah,
so you may want to check them out.
Your All Access, is there a URL people can go to check it out?
SoloHunter.com, so SoloHNTR.com/all access.
HNTR, not Hunter, but
just HNTR.
SoloHNTR.com.
Yep. Okay. And it's also on the front page there. We're pretty specific about showing where you can watch the TV show and where not.
Yeah.
And then, later on, like you'll cut some things down and re-release it to Amazon, which we recently got on. A lot of that because of you, seeing your show on there and hearing of some of the success that you had seen with Prime Video. So I went ahead and made that commitment and investment as well to get onto Prime Video, and audience is growing from that tremendously. Yeah. So that's a major part of the platform moving forward, and YouTube is a major part of it. The broadcast networks for me, are still a major part of it. So I think the idea is just giving everyone that has enjoyed mine and Remy's content for so many years, giving them the opportunity to consume that, and to see that in all the different varieties. And then also, from a brand and a business standpoint, to maximize on all the adventures that I go on. So similarly to what you're doing yourself. Yeah.
So you sell a lot of product, Tim. Can they, is that at SoloHNTR.com also, is where they can buy your products?
That's right. They can, I think I've got a couple of URLs that link to that over the years. I've tried to buy everything around it other than stinking Dave Watson still owns SoloHunter.com spelled out. And I'm like,
Dave won't sell it to you?
No, he will. Yeah, he's like, it'll expire in February. Just buy it then. I'm like, and then February goes and it's renewed. And I'm like, I'll call him again. Dave, hey. Because he was going to pitch a show concept, SoloHunter, to the network. And when he did that, Jeff Wayne's like, we already got a show called SoloHunter. Sorry.
Jeff Wayne is a former programming director at Outdoor Channel.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting to see. I told you over the campfire and I hope I wasn't prying when I was asking you all these questions about your All Access platform, because we get so many people are like, I need more, I want more, I want to see this right away. It's like, give us time. But
the way
I'm just thankful that people are that avid and excited about.
The way I look at it is it's a more personal way that I can communicate with those that show a higher level of commitment and interest to the same type of stuff that I like.
Yeah.
You know, my email correspondence with members is extremely high compared to correspondence on Instagram or Facebook or regular emails. The amount of feedback and interaction that I get from the All Access members is tremendously valuable to develop new content or new products or that kind of thing. And then we have all of these great partners that we work with. You know, mine and your partners are not the same, but they're all a part of the outdoor industry and teams. All of my partners want us to share the wealth, you know, share the products, share the things. And so they come to us and say, we want to do a giveaway. Let's give away this package. Let's do this. Let's do some things for those that do the most for you.
Yeah.
And for me, it was, well, those that do the most for me and my support are the All Access members. So we'll do product giveaways. You know, we're trying to work together another hunt giveaway to just show our appreciation back to those that have kept me rolling for the last 8 years now, I guess.
Yeah.
9 years.
So what's your YouTube channel name? SoloHunter?
YouTube.com, SoloHunter spelled out. Yeah. So I started my YouTube channel in 2007. So at that point, it was still Hunter spelled out.
Dang it. I wish I would have started YouTube in 2008 when we started TV.
I was doing day-to-days in 2009. I was doing daily videos on my YouTube channel. I was uploading them when smartphones first came out. I was uploading them through my smartphone. And I've since taken a lot of those down because it's just stupid. I watch myself like, you dang kid, what were you thinking, you know? But so like, I feel like I was so far ahead of technology at the time that it seemed like a failure at the time for me.
Yeah.
Like, it just didn't work.
Yeah.
But in reality, it kind of conditioned for when technology and the times and people's appetites for consuming media caught up.
Yeah. You know? Well, I would say in the outdoor space, it may not necessarily be the people's appetite, but for those partners who they're ad agencies and stuff, they just weren't comfortable with. They view digital as a heavy risk. Yeah. Now it's like put their foot on the gas. Which you and I are beneficiaries of that new mindset.
Digital 10 years ago, there was the analytics were non-existent. Yeah. You know, I don't think the platforms had developed any of that yet.
Yeah.
And analytics on television are still non-existent. You know, all they knew is, we give you $50,000, we get a commercial spot. This is a sweet deal, you know, and be in front of X millions of households.
Yeah.
With digital, as you well know, we've discussed, I can tell you how many minutes somebody watched this episode. Yeah. So from a brand standpoint, this episode may be heavy, you know, optics driven or heavy clothing driven.
Yeah.
Partners are getting a lot more than what they bargained for.
Yeah, way more. I'm so thankful that all these opportunities exist. You know, for us, podcasts are another part of ours.
Yeah.
This podcast right here, the Leupold Hunt Talk Radio, is a huge part of our content delivery. Hopefully all who are listening to this one know that I have the other podcast that I do with Corey Jacobson called Elk Talk, which I cannot believe how many people are listening to that one. I attribute that to Corey. Not to me. I'm like, why anyone listens to anything I do? I'm still at kind of a quandary about why would anyone listen to Randy Newberg's line of BS. But as long as they keep listening, I'll keep BSing.
You know what? It's probably because they see a little bit of reality in your BS and not so much BS in your BS. But you take a guy like Corey, a world champion elk caller, kills crap loads of elk. You kill crap loads of elk on public land. You know, and, hey, I can hunt public land. Like it's like the perfect recipe for the everyday guy that I can do what Randy and Corey are doing. I wanted to hear more about it, you know, and how can I do it? That's where you guys are very good at delivering that type of information.
Yeah, I think both your content and our content is geared towards, I don't know, aspirational, inspirational, probably aspirational is the right word, is I just want to lower the hurdles because I was that person who grew up thinking the only way I was ever going elk hunting is if I won the lottery.
Right.
When you grew up where I did in the northern woods of northern Minnesota where there's nothing but whitetails, your mind can't even go that you could be an elk hunter. And when I got the chance to move out west and do that, I'm like, everybody needs to know about this. And maybe that's why some people are like, shut your mouth, Newberg. The whole world doesn't need to know about this. But you and Marcus both grew up in the West. So
yeah, for me, it was like sportsman's package, $100, you know, or whatever. You can kill deer, elk, bear, mountain lion, goose, chicken, whatever you can get on that sportsman's package. And they're right out the back door. Yeah. You know, you're watching them while you're milking the cows out the barn. You're like, oh, there's elks up there. I better get moving, you know. So.
Is that how it was growing up in Dillon, Montana, Marcus? Did you ever? No, I'm not saying milking your cows. I mean, but I suspect that probably elk hunting probably was just an accepted reality.
Yeah,
not
it was. I mean, yeah, we did. I grew up doing it. My dad would do it before I hunted, and I was tagging along and started elk hunting when I was 12 years old.
Yeah. Well,
so it's different mindset for me, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, for me, I want people to know that you can go do this stuff. Oh, yeah. It's not easy. You got to invest in it, but everything in life is an investment in yourself. You know, to get to the next stepping point, you have to invest in yourself, whether it's your hunting knowledge or your awareness about opportunities or your gear, whatever it is. Yeah. It's just learning and learning and learning. And pretty soon it's like, well, why wasn't I doing this all the time?
I think the key to it is learning and educating yourself on the opportunities that are there. Don't worry about the gear so much or the experience so much or the knowledge so much. Learn about the opportunities, and then guess what? You're going to learn a hell of a lot because you're going to take advantage of those opportunities and, educate or experience on the mountain is the greatest education that you'll ever get.
Yeah. So. Oh, there's no substitute for doing it. Just like this sheep hunt. I learned so much. Mm-hmm. I felt like my first elk hunting. It's like, whoa, dang it. What was I thinking? Why didn't I bring this? Or boy, that was a dumb idea, Randy. Why do you guys go do that? So, but that is the fun of hunting new places and new things. Is that whole you feel like you're back in that beginner phase again. And
yeah, it makes you wish that you could do that for a new species in a new country and a new land all the time.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Great opportunity. I'm so glad to have had it. And such a rare opportunity to have you guys here in camp. That's amazing, you know.
It was a lot of fun. I wish that I had some backstraps to bring home, but we ate them all in camp. So my wife is going to think that, did you really shoot a sheep? Is that the picture? Yeah. Is that a picture of the other side of Marcus's ram? Is probably what she's going to ask.
Well, Branson didn't cut loose on the shanks on Marcus's ram, so maybe you can have Marcus's shanks.
There you go.
I think I could probably share some sheep with you.
Really?
Even some sheep backstraps.
All right.
No, I can't thank you enough for making this happen for me too. I mean, it was an incredible experience, and I mean, it's been a dream of mine, but obviously not for nearly as long as you guys have been dreaming about it.
Because we're old.
This is become reality way sooner than I ever thought possible, which is.
Well,
I feel super lucky.
I don't know if you noticed in the employment contract that said that now you're going to pay for my stone sheep hunt. Oh, you're going on a stone. We are going on a stone sheep hunt, and we got I'll pay for the Dall Sheep hunts. Yeah. Marcus will pay for the stone sheep hunts.
All right.
You better get some content.
I'm going to have to pencil this one out.
Nissan, Dairy Queen, everybody else out there listening, better listen up.
We need some money.
We going stone sheep hunting. Daddy needs some more ice cream.
Well, I don't think I ever have to worry about stone sheep hunting. Like I said earlier, I'd written off that I was ever going sheep hunting of any sort. Yeah. I mean, even though I apply in all the draws, I'd come to the reality that I probably wasn't ever going to get to do it, and that's fine. But when it's always there in the back of your mind, and the opportunity comes, I'm so thankful that my wonderful friends who I tried to get to come up here in my place and let Marcus film them, now I'm so glad they all said, Randy, you got to do this. You are going to regret it if you don't do this.
Yeah.
You know what, guys? You're right. I would have regretted it if I would have sent them up here rather than me. So, but, well, folks, we've kept you for a long time. I hope you'll go check out the SoloHunter stuff. Tim's been doing this for a long time. We've known each other for a long time. Our paths never had a chance to cross until we were somewhere out in the far reaches of Alaska.
Yeah, ever since you hated going to SHOT Show and I quit going to SHOT Show, we haven't spent any time together since. So.
Oh yeah.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, and folks, thanks for listening. I hope that you will look for this on our YouTube channel, and then once it's on YouTube, the day by day, we'll be cranking it out for a coherent story, I hope, for Amazon. And if you have the choice to watch us between YouTube and Amazon, we'd prefer you watch us on Amazon, all things being the same. But our day-by-day stuff is not on Amazon. It's only on YouTube. But our final polished episodes first go to Amazon. They're there for about a month, and then they go to YouTube. But this is a selfish plug. I get paid a lot more if you watch me on Amazon. Plus, you have a much higher quality viewing experience. The Amazon viewing experience is hard to beat. Man, I watch that at
app
home.
Is incredible.
Yeah, and then just it streams in high def. It's like, that's why we've been shooting this in high def all this time.
Yeah, but they can go and they can download all the Fresh Tracks episodes, and they can download all the SoloHunter episodes, and then they got them when they're off grid. It's
there
perfect.
You go.
Yeah, it's
there we go. So, well, thanks for listening. Appreciate it. Eric Lee, I'd tell you guys to go look him up, but I suspect by the time this podcast drops in a week, the number of people who have already contacted Tim and Marcus and I don't know how many openings Eric's going to have, but thanks to Eric and Branson, Jace, and Josh. They all did a great job.
Yeah, for sure.
Wonderful people to just hang out with. You couldn't ask for four more polite, easygoing, friendly people.
Yeah. In fact, we're in Eric's home right now in his basement bedroom where I'm staying for a couple of days.
So we better turn this off though, because Marcus and I got to get to a hotel next to the airport in Anchorage tonight so that I can get home for 12 hours before I got to get on a plane and go to the next gig. So, Kim Newberg, if you're listening, if any of you can nominate a woman for sainthood, I would put out there that Kimberly Newberg, my wife, should be on someone's application for nomination. I love you, darling. Thanks for putting up with me, because if you ever get rid of me, well, this whole operation's coming to an end. So, all right, folks. Thanks for listening.